Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Bigfoot in California. Jake Gardner was hiking in La Crescenta, California when he spotted a strange ape-like creature in the woods. He said he usually is on the lookout for deer or mountain lions, but not apes. He quickly pulled out his phone and started recording. While he was hiking in the woods, it wasn't very remote. He was just yards away from a YMCA, and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, along with Los Angeles Animal Control, went to investigate the incident. Unfortunately, the video footage Jake captured is blurry and vague at best. There does appear to be a torso of something standing in the trees, and what looked like swinging limbs as the creature lumbered along. To make things even more confusing, Andrew Hugan, a spokesman for the Department of Fish and Wildlife, said he and his colleagues believed it very well could be some kind of ape. Was it Bigfoot? Wildlife officials warned that whatever it is, it probably won't be cuddly or friendly. It's probably not a mythical monster, but it could be an illegal exotic pet that someone released into the wild and is now surviving in the California wilderness, like a chimpanzee or something. There are actually several cases of pet chimps or apes that have escaped and are now roaming around California. Number 9. Melon heads of Kirtland. Whispers that have circulated throughout northeastern Ohio since the 1970s claim that creatures with abnormally large, bald heads roam the region's forests, especially around Halloween. There are two main legends about where these appropriately nicknamed melon heads came from. Amy Capostacey of the Lake County Historical Society told the story of a mad scientist named Dr. Crow, who performed bizarre medical procedures on a group of orphans, causing their heads to swell disproportionately. The children grew tired of the abuse and burned Dr. Crow's house down with him inside. Because they had nowhere else to go, they went to live in the nearby woods, where they supposedly remain today. Another legend claims that the government was behind the head enlarging experiments and that they sent the kids to live with Dr. Crow in the city of Kirtland. They arrived at his house in the middle of the night, and Dr. Crow and his wife kindly took them in and cared for them. When the doctor died, the children burned his house down and went and lived in the woods. While the melon heads would be easy to write off as folklore, some people believe that they are really out there. Sightings happen mostly at night, and nobody has ever captured any solid evidence pointing to their existence. Number 8. Borrego Sandman. It seems as though there are countless different versions of Bigfoot-like creatures that have been spotted throughout the American Southwest. One of them is the Borrego Sandman, also known as the Borrego Sasquatch, that lives in San Diego County in Southern California. It's typically seen in the Anza Borrego Desert State Park, which is located within the Colorado Desert. Stories that the humanoid-like primate have been passed around for centuries. When Spanish missionaries first arrived in the area in 1769, indigenous locals spoke of foul-smelling man-like beasts that lived along the Santa Ana River. They called them hairy devils and avoided them at all costs. European settlers and stagecoach travelers soon witnessed the creatures firsthand while passing through the area. These alleged sightings were sometimes accompanied by strange, unexplained deaths that left victims looking as if they had been attacked by a savage animal. The Borrego Sasquatch is a particularly aggressive type of Bigfoot, according to some tales. In one sighting that happened in 1939, a man was camping alone when he was awakened by two of the beasts, who he later described as having silverish fur and demonic red eyes. They seemed afraid of his fire, but lurked around his campsite for some time before finally disappearing into the darkness. 30 years later, another camper named Harold Lancaster encountered a similar creature. He fired his pistol, causing it to jump 3 feet into the air and run away. Number 7. Backyard Dinosaur. Florida is notorious for its bizarre and sometimes terrifying wildlife, but Palm Coast resident Christina Ryan's alleged sighting of a baby dinosaur in 2020 was a first. Her home surveillance camera captured footage of the creature crossing through her backyard early one morning. Ryan told the news that everyone she showed the video to agreed that the animal resembled a baby dinosaur, and that nobody could think of an animal that walks in a similar fashion. Some people speculated that it was a giant bird, But as Ryan pointed out, the creature in the video appeared to have 4 legs. Others suggested that it was a large lizard, perhaps a Komodo dragon, or simply someone's pet dog on a leash. One observant social media user pointed out that the animal appears to be wearing a harness with a leash dragging behind it. Ryan may have eventually realized that her imagination was getting a bit carried away when she admitted that perhaps she had watched Jurassic Park too many times. She also said, somewhat jokingly, that she was sticking to her theory about the creature being a baby dinosaur, because why not? Number 6. German U-boat versus sea monster. A group of marine engineers were surveying an undersea power cable off the Scottish coast in 2016 when they discovered the remains of a World War I-era German submarine. The wreck was in surprisingly good shape for having sat for nearly a century on the sea floor, 340 feet beneath the waves. Experts determined that it's most likely one of 2 U-boats that were sunk by British patrol ships in the Irish Sea in 1918 as the conflict drew to a close. One of the submarines, known as UB-85, went down in April of that year. Thankfully, its crew members all survived. For years, a rumor claimed that a sea monster prevented UB-85 from going underwater, making it visible to the nearby British patrol ship HMS Coropsus. This far-fetched story appears to have no historical or factual backing. British naval intelligence interrogated the crew members, and not one of them mentioned the presence of a sea monster. Oddly, this is just one of several sensational tales about crazy things happening to German U-boats at sea, most of which have either been disproven or remain questionable. Number 5. Mongolian Deathworm. According to legend, there is a fat, dark red worm with acidic saliva that lives in the southern Gobi Desert. Known as the Mongolian Deathworm, it's rumored to be around 3 feet long and is spiked on both ends. Locals call it the Olgoi Korkoi, which loosely translates to large intestine worm. The creature is rarely seen because it spends most of its time underground. In fact, it's only been spotted a handful of times and has never been photographed, but it's occasionally seen lying on the desert floor. It claims its victims in several ways, usually by spitting its corrosive venom at its target. When that fails, the Mongolian deathworm resorts to Plan B, electrocuting its victim from a distance. It was famously mentioned in a 1926 publication by paleontologist Roy Chapman Andrews, who didn't believe the deathworm existed, but was still courteous enough to pass on the legendary tales about it that are known to circulate throughout Mongolia. There have been several attempts to confirm the creature's existence by going out and finding it, but nobody has ever been successful. Like any legendary creature, the deathworm has a following of die-hard believers who have concluded that there must be some truth to the claimed sightings. Others believe that the mythical monster is actually a snake or a legless lizard, which is entirely plausible, especially in the arid desert climate that it's known to live in. Do you think there really could be a giant deathworm lurking in the desert? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 4. The Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil has become somewhat of a regional pop culture icon, appearing in countless books, films, and TV shows, despite having never been captured or photographed. Rumored to haunt the wooded Pine Barren of southern New Jersey, it's described as a flying monster with a kangaroo-like body, bat-like wings, a horse-like face with horns or antlers, and 2 legs with cloven hooves. Varying eyewitness accounts claim that it either has no tail or a lizard-like tail. It emits a blood-curdling screech from deep within the woods at night and kills small animals, including little dogs and chickens. Legends dating back to the 18th century claim that the Jersey Devil was the demonic 13th child of a witch named Mother Leeds. Born on a dark and stormy night, it quickly transitioned into its current terrifying form, killed the midwife on duty, and flew off into the forest. Over the past few centuries, many people claim to have encountered the Jersey Devil, but knowledge of its alleged existence didn't become widespread until the early 20th century, when a Philadelphia businessman painted a kangaroo green, attached wings to it, and showed it to the public in an attempt to pull off a poorly planned hoax. But afterward, there was a noticeable uptick in reported Jersey Devil sightings and encounters. In one of the more recent accounts from 1960, residents of Mays Landing heard horrifying screams in the middle of the night. Police posted flyers reassuring the public that the creature isn't real. In the meantime, a circus owner encouraged the hysteria by offering a $100,000 reward to anyone who captured a Jersey Devil. As I'm sure you guessed, nobody did. Forest Ranger John Irwin was on patrol in 1993 when he crossed paths with a strange animal that was blocking the road. He described it as roughly 6 feet tall with horns and matted black fur, and claimed that they stared each other down for several minutes before it ran off into the woods. There have been many other alleged encounters with the Jersey Devil, with one claiming that it was 10 feet tall, yet no solid evidence of its existence has ever been found. Number 3. Lake Ontario Sea Serpent. If you ask most experts, there is no way that a prehistoric monster could be lurking in the depths of Lake Ontario. Yet legends of such a creature have persisted for centuries, especially along the American side of the lake bordering upstate New York. The Oswego Palladium newspaper reported the first sighting of the Lake Ontario sea serpent in 1821, describing it as a snake-like creature measuring roughly 20 to 25 feet long. At first glance, the monster appeared motionless or asleep and resembled a burnt log. As the witnesses drove their boat towards the animal, it raised its head about 10 feet out of the water and then ferociously began thrashing about, splashing water everywhere. Using its tail, it produced columns of water 7 to 8 feet high. In 1833, the Oswego Palladium reported on another sighting by an eyewitness who claimed that the serpent was around 175 feet long. Like the previous report, the witnesses described seeing an apparently motionless being at first. Then the creature charged toward the vessel, narrowly missing it as it passed underneath the stern. In 1849, the British Whig reported the sighting of a miniature sea serpent, measuring roughly 12 feet long, with its body raised several feet out of the water. The creature allegedly fled past the vessel as the crew watched. Of course, not everyone believes these tales. In 2020, a New York State Department of Environmental Conservation official told the Palladium Times that any reports of abnormally large aquatic organisms resembling sea monsters are likely embellished accounts of large lake sturgeon. Well, there you go. I guess that's that. Or is it? Number 2. Chupacabra. Residents in Riverside, California were shaken in 2017 when a large hairless creature with wrinkled pinkish skin and a rodent-like tail began appearing around homes at the foot of Box Springs Mountain. Kerry Shuker spotted the strange beast one morning after his cat ran into his house, terrified by something it had seen outside. He told the local newspaper, the Press Enterprise, that it was at least 2 feet or more longer than the biggest coyote you've ever seen. When Shuker ordered the creature to leave, it snarled and walked away. Local resident M.J. Bunt claimed that she saw this strange specimen eating fruit from a neighbor's tree. She described it as having deer-like ears and a long snout, and said that she initially mistook it for a sick coyote or a wolf. But she realized that it had too many different-looking parts to be any single animal that she knew of. Locals started to wonder if they were seeing the legendary Chupacabra, which was first sighted in Puerto Rico in 1995. Alleged sightings spread throughout Latin America and eventually into the U.S., where they continue to this day. After some cases were reported in Redlands, California, officials identified the creatures as coyotes with mange, an irritating skin condition that causes canines to scratch themselves to the point where they lose their hair. But not everyone believes that the explanation behind all the sightings is so cut and dry, even if they don't think it's an actual monster. Tom Brundage, who described the animal as resembling a chihuahua with a rat-like face and huge hind legs, told the news that he believed it was a canine marsupial hybrid that followed donkeys into the U.S. from Central America. Authorities, including the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, maintain their belief that people have been getting worked up about a mythical creature. Number 1. Lake Erie Monster. The Lake Erie Monster, also known as the South Bay Bessie, was first spotted in 1793. Sightings have continued into modern times, with a noticeable uptick in reports over the last 40 or so years. Bessie is reportedly a grayish snake-like creature measuring 30 to 40 feet long and a foot or more in diameter. The first sighting happened north of Sandusky, Ohio, when the captain of the sloop Felicity was out shooting ducks and saw what looked like a monster. There were 3 reported sightings in 1817, including one off the Toledo, Ohio coast. The witnesses, 2 French brothers by the name of Dussault, described the creature as a sturgeon with arms. They said that the 20 to 30-foot serpent was writhing in what they called death throes. In July of 1982, the crew of a ship traveling from Buffalo to Toledo noticed churning waters about a half-mile ahead of their vessel. When they got closer, they saw a so-called huge sea serpent that, in their words, was wrestling about in the waters as if fighting with an unseen foe. After the last reported sighting of Bessie in 1984, a marina owner named Thomas Solberg offered a $5,000 reward to anyone who captured the monster alive. While nobody has ever caught the beast, Bessie's legend lives on through the Cleveland Monsters hockey team, as well as a Great Lakes Brewing Company IPA named in her honor. Thanks for watching! Do you believe any of these monsters actually exist? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!